Winter, come here.
What's up, guys? It's supposed to freeze tonight. It gave me a freeze warning on my phone from 2 a.m. till 10 a.m. tomorrow. And like I said in my last video, I have some cucumbers out here, as well as the cucuzzis that are gonna all die with a frost, as well as other plants, but they're not producing fruit anymore. So I'm going to go out to the garden, harvest some last minute things, and as well as just work inside the garden. So come on, let's go. We are getting our animals settled. Aiden's bringing over some straw to give the pigs and some hay for the goats, because the grass is starting to slow down growing, and we want to make sure that their bellies are nice and full for tonight. I just realized, oh yeah, that's missing right there. So it's really windy outside and I'm really cold, but I tried to put on warm things. Anyway, let's go harvest some things. My girls went inside the house to get some containers, because they're going to harvest the zinnias that are there and at the back, because they want to make a bouquet, and I told them they could, since it's going to die anyway if we don't pick it. So might as well enjoy it inside of the house. Oh, that's so pretty.
Yeah. I did.
Okay.
Right here.
So this is what Anaya just picked. She's gonna bring it inside. Nehemiah has her own bucket, or her own cup really, over there, but this is gonna look so pretty inside of the house. Oof. It's so sad that I can't let these cucumbers get bigger, but that one has a hole in it. We'll give it to the pigs. But if I don't harvest them, they're going to turn mush anyway. So we might as well harvest them. These are just some herbs that I harvested yesterday, which was parsley, mint, and the oregano or thyme. So I've gotten 5. Actually, there's one more here. 6 tiny cucumbers. Nope. Is there another one here? 7 tiny cucumbers. I'm gonna leave. There's some really tiny ones that are like this big, and then there's a couple that have holes. I'm gonna leave those. We'll give those to the pigs. But there's one more, actually 2 more spots that have cucumbers. In a video, I left these cucumbers here because they were smaller, and now they've gotten much bigger. These are, oops, I broke that one. These are the, why can't I think of it now? Ooh, Japanese cucumber, suyo long. I think that's the name. And there's about 4 of them here. This was my favorite cucumber last year because it tasted amazing and it grew really large. But this year I really like the jade cucumber. Actually, there's another one right here. That one was the biggest one. How am I harvesting cucumbers in November? I have no idea, right before frost. It's because these plants grew by themselves. If I would have wanted them to grow back and get a second wave of cucumbers, they wouldn't have done good. One more spot for cucumbers. Nehemiah, your bouquet looks really good. Okay, this is the last spot for cucumbers, and these are pickling cucumbers. It's windy. Okay, we have these two small ones. And right here you can see this is, oopsie. These are squash, and none of them are ready. Let me see if I can bring you in closer so I can show you how many are growing on the outside of the fence. If the wind wasn't blowing, it wouldn't be as cold, but right here, those are all the ones, and none of them are harvestable size yet, but on the outside, there's about 1, 2, 3, 4. There's about 6 of them growing small on the outside. And none of them are big enough in here to harvest. So this plant will, if we get down to freezing, this plant will no longer be alive tomorrow. I wish I could save it. Look at it. It looks so good. But what we did save is all these cucumbers, which is wild. Yeah, that looks really good. It's gonna look nice on the table. You gonna bring it inside? I completely forgot about all of these loofahs. Ugh. I thought I harvested and pulled out all of the loofahs, and apparently I left a piece of plant still on because it grew back with vengeance and produced, now this is what, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like 11 loofahs after I cleaned up the garden and thought I harvested them all. I'm loofah rich, you guys. This is 11 loofahs, 11 loofah babies. It smells weird. One of the other things that I want to get done is taking down all of these cattle panels off of the log raised beds. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 of them because I eventually want to, I don't think we'll get that done today, but eventually I want to weed all the beds, and then I have black, get winter out of the garden. And then I have black, not landscape fabric, black plastic that I want to lay down throughout the whole log raised bed area. Actually, there's 6 of them. I missed one. Through the whole log raised bed area until next spring, where I pull it back, just because the amount of weeds over here is ridiculous. And I also want to pull up all of the asparagus roots that I have in those 2 log raised beds and plant them in the orchard area in those 2 forever garden beds, just because the amount of weeds in these log raised beds. Let me see if I can show you. So not only is these 2 beds asparagus, which is this fuzzy stuff, but then it also, this bed has more grass in it, but this one you can see it has like some goldenrod in here, and then it also has some morning glory. It's just really bad. That's not an asparagus, and so I want to get in here, dig up all of the asparagus roots if we can find them, and then cover these beds for the winter. My girls were helping me move the cattle panels, and I'll show you later on where we're sitting them. But while we were removing the cattle panels, Aiden was removing the T-post, and some of them were really easier than to move than others. That one the first bed was really difficult for him to move. I think we all tried to pull it up and it didn't work. It's already starting to look hopeful at this log raised beds. Now that we've moved the cattle panels and Aiden started to remove the T-posts, my girls all picked a bed to work on. Nia and Anaya are going to work on beds opposite of each other, and I'm going to work on this bed right here, this middle bed, to start removing all of the weeds, and hopefully we can get, I don't know how much time we have, we probably have 2 hours before we have to leave, but hopefully we can get all of the garden beds at least weeded, even if we don't get to the asparagus, so that I can cover them. And I bought out the black plastic. Aiden ended up going inside to go get gloves, and then he came back to try and work on moving it again, but it was jiggling. It just was not moving out. I think it was caught on a root after he got it out. I think that's what he said, but you can see we all tried to like jiggle it and move it, and eventually it did come out, but it just took a long time. As we started weeding these beds, at the first I was just like, oh, like, yeah, I'm weeding these beds and it's not that hard. But then as I removed like the big weeds and I saw how much small weeds there were, I was just like, oh my goodness, I can't believe it that I'm doing this. But I'm very excited that we got it done. And it did take it only took an hour, but by the time, or a little over an hour, but to do the 3 beds with all 3 of us doing it. And so we only had 2 hours out in the garden, but then we had to eat lunch and do all that thing. So it did take us quite a while to get this garden done. Y'all, we did it. We cleared these 3 beds. 1, 2, this one still, my girls didn't pull out the zinnias, and it also had some potatoes that were growing back in here. And then Nehemiah did the bed across from it, and the same thing, it had some potatoes and some onions in that bed. Oh, and it has a rosemary at the end. I do have the black plastic out here that I wanted to put over these beds, but I'm not going to today because the pathways are still really a mess. We started weeding and putting it in the pool, but then the pool got overflowed, and as we started getting further and further away from the pool, we just started throwing the weeds in the middle of the pathway. And so I'm gonna have to sweep up this pathway, because if you throw any soil on these the landscape fabric, the weeds can start rooting in the landscape fabric, which has happened in some places. And so I want to definitely get in here and sweep it out, and I just don't know if I have enough time to do that today, and just tidy it up. But we got the beds done. My hands are completely dirty. My girls already went in to change. They have a tumbling class to go to, and they needed to eat lunch before we go, so we're gonna have to part ways. My son Aiden's over there. He's still working on there was like 3 more beds over there that he needed to connect. We don't have any more soil right now, and our truck's in the shop, so we can't get any soil for probably another week. But he's going ahead and connecting the last few beds, so when we do get soil, he can fill that up. And I don't know what's the high supposed to be tomorrow, but since the high today was about 50, I think 8, if it gets up to about 58 tomorrow, then I will come out here and try to weed the last 1, 2, 3 other beds, at least the 3 other beds, even if we don't get to the asparagus again tomorrow. This is where we just temporarily put the cattle panels, but as you can see, they basically fit the length of these beds, and so I could plant my tomatoes in going these beds next spring. And it just already looks brand new. Even looking back there, you can see towards the log raised beds, it just looks like a big difference, especially when I add the black fabric on here to winterize it. We're still going to, even though it's going to freeze tonight, we're still going to get temperatures going back up into the 80s in next week. I looked at the weather. So it's not going to stay cold for too long, but it is going to get cold. I've already closed completely and checked on the hoop house, and everything in there is looking good. I don't have anything in there that could potentially die. Actually, I do. I'm lying. I was thinking about in the beds. I do have the peppers in there, the banana trees, which are supposed to be, the banana trees are supposed to be hardy down to, I forgot what temperature. So they should be fine even if it does get a light freeze in there, but I'm not, I don't think it will, just because like I explained last year when I had sunflowers planted inside, or that sprouted inside the hoop house, it got down to 17 degrees and they still didn't die, which means it didn't go below 32 degrees inside of the hoop house.